this bike so you've got unlimited power. Hello guys, welcome back to part 2 of the fake Lectron carburetor versus real Lectron carburetor. Today we have the fake carburetor fitted to this 2002 Husqvarna WR 360. Yes, it's a 2-stroke. Yes, it's hard to kick over. Yes, it has a lot of compression. Is it fast? Fucking whap! The carburetor is fitted. I fitted my new reeds and they done nothing. Maybe we'll discuss the carburetor before we then rip the shit out of this bike. Join me.
We have some new reeds for the Husqvarna. Ted, shut up. So these are a 2-part reed. They've got a backing plate and then your main reeds as well. You see this bit behind here. It looks like we've got the backing plate but with carbon fibre reeds. And the problem is with that is this gap in the middle is so thin that the carbon reeds haven't really got space to sit on this middle line here. So I think they're maybe leaving a little bit here, although there's certainly not much meat in between it. But I think the main problem is underneath where these bits sort of splay out from here. I think that mixed with that is probably just not ideal. So I bought these from America. So I'm going to unbolt these, bolt these in place how they should be, and see if it makes it any better. This is to fix the rich idle issue I was having, which was essentially making the bike die or not idle even when the idle screw was turned all the way up. It was turned up so much that it was hitting the slide and locking the slide out. So I think that's why these were leaking and then blowing the fuel back up into the carb, and that was what was creating my rich mixture, I believe. I Loctited these in as well, which again was a good idea at the time, but now they're really tight, so we'll use a big screwdriver. I assume this part shouldn't have rubber coating on there. It looks far too sort of clean and machined to have worn off. As I'm here, I think I'll re-Loctite these. Boom. We've got the 2.45 needle in there, which is the fattest. I don't know what the next step is now. Right, so we are back here again. Unfortunately, the reeds didn't work on my bike. They didn't make any difference. So that was £60 well spent. So, what have I done? I wanted to determine that the fake carburetor or the clone carburetor was the issue. What I've done is I bolted the original carburetor back on to check if the idle actually worked on this carb, and straight away it idled well and was adjustable using the idle screw. So then I knew the problem was with something in this carb. What I then done is started mixing and matching parts. I noticed that the idle adjustment ramp on the fake carburetor, this part here, Genuine on the right, clone on the left, you can see the idle adjustment ramp on the Genuine carburetor is slightly lower down. I thought because it was lower down, the idle adjustment screw was then holding the slide higher up. I could measure the differences, but it doesn't really matter too much. And it doesn't matter because this isn't the problem. That's why it doesn't matter. Because what I've done, Genuine metering rod here, into the fake slide, and then put that into the Genuine body. That was the combination I went to test that the slide, if the slide was the issue and then caused my issue of no idle on the genuine carburetor, but it didn't. So that then ruled out the slide. I also tried this setup with the genuine needle and fake slide in the fake carburetor, obviously, to check if the metering rod, the genuine metering rod, would work in here and fix my issues, but it didn't. Again, that didn't do anything. Same problems. So there's that. So that ruled out the metering rod and it ruled out the slide, which then left me with the carb body itself. That was the issue. I have used the genuine choke plunger on both carburetors, swapping them around. So that rules out that too. This is where we're at now. I don't really know what to do now, so I guess we're just, and there's probably not a lot we can do. What I did notice, I'll have to work out what it does, on the genuine carburetor, there is a brass rod in here which goes down the float bowl until about here on there, and that picks up fuel which then goes possibly into the choke circuit. On the fake carburetor, I can't see, there is no brass tube in there until you get to about up here. So I'm going to take that apart and just see what that does, but that's the first big difference that I've actually noticed on here. Other than that, unless the difference is internal, I'm not sure what else would cause that other than where the metering rod hole is. That has got a sort of a steel insert there, it looks like, where the genuine is sort of machined straight into the body. This is slightly larger, this hole, so whether that is just allowing when the rod is all the way down, if that hole is slightly larger, the thickness of the needle may not be enough to completely seal the gap needed to then not draw the fuel through. So it might just be sucking the fuel through all the way. What happens is that because I need the slide open so much for it to draw in enough air to then meet the fuel that it's bringing in to then idle, the idle screws then become redundant essentially, and my idle adjustment is then done off the throttle cable assembly, which it's not the way to do it. The idle screw ends up interfering with the slide on here, so it ends up locking the slide out, which is obviously dangerous because it locks your throttle on. So that essentially becomes redundant. So yeah, it's not right. On the genuine carburetor, with all the genuine parts on there, when it was running and I checked how much the slide was lifted, it was a tiny amount in comparison, but the idle adjustment was perfect. On the fake carburetor, the gap was 2 or 3 times bigger. I also want to check the choke circuit on the fake carburetor just to make sure that it wasn't pumping in too much fuel for some reason, whether this gap was slightly different and the plunger wasn't closing fully. Other than that, they both start up more or less first or second kick, it will start the bike up. So the fueling is there or thereabouts. It's just the idle issue we're trying to overcome here. Oh yeah, I forgot, because I took this off, you can see a perfect example there. As soon as you take the float bowl gasket off, it will instantly swell and not go back in. We've got a spare for that. Leave that in the sun. That'll dry out eventually. There is the brass tube. That is the differences in the brass tube length, whatever that means. Fake carburetor, needle not stuck. Genuine carburetor, needle stuck. Again, maybe the fake carburetor is slightly better at that, not getting the float needle stuck. It's one benefit of the fake ones. Yeah, it is. There doesn't seem to be any big difference in when the slide is all the way down in terms of the profile of the rod. It seems to sit in about the same place, unless it is just the fact that this hole is slightly bigger and allowing fuel to escape through. That's all I can think of at the minute. This hole here is in the choke circuit too. When I've just blown down here, I could feel a air leak coming from somewhere, and it wasn't from here, and it was around this area, and it is actually coming from the join of the carb here. Maybe the pressure is more than what the vacuum would be. This is possibly loose. Either way, again, that isn't the issue, because if this was leaking, it would draw more air in too, and I need more air or less fuel. So this would actually help me in my problem, not make it worse. So this, again, this isn't the issue with this, but let's just check if the bolts are actually tight. Yes, they are. By the way, on these rod sets here, the Genuine H series is only available in a 38mm. They typically come, for them bikes, for the 250s, etc., they come with a 4:2 metering rod in them. Equivalent, if we are basing this, that this is a 38H series, which we know it is pretty similar to, it is equivalent roughly to a 2.05 on here. It's sort of between 1.95 and 2.05. They are pretty close to the 4.2 grind profile. And then the rest you've got obviously fatter up here and thinner going from there. This sort of says the problem to me, which is what I said at the very start, is that this is a clone rod 2.45, which is the fattest one they do. On the fake carburetor, going into the hole where it would sit, that goes all the way through with ease, and there's a little bit of movement in there, back and forward movement from the needle and the sort of seating hole, but it goes all the way through, no problem. The same metering rod on the Genuine Carb, going into the same hole, for starters, it only goes up that far before something binds. I don't want to force it anymore, which tells me that this hole is smaller. It is as simple as that. And because this hole is smaller, it's allowing less fuel to go in, which is exactly what I need. It can't be by much, but it's enough. The Genuine rod in the Genuine body, it goes in there, but it's a perfectly, machined interference fit, basically. So it goes in, but there's no movement other than obviously on the slide, but there's no movement in that needle in there at all. The same rod in here, I'm sure, is going to go in like a sausage down an alleyway. Yeah, no resistance there at all. And also, quite a lot of movement I can see. I can visibly see the movement between the hole and the rod here. So that just tells me that this hole is bigger. And I'm sure that's going to be the issue, because in terms of how the bodies are machined, we know they're pretty much identical. All right, granted, I didn't spot this at the start, but there we go. That only comes into play when the choke is pulled, essentially. Yeah, flat side of the rod is down, and you can see the gap in the top section there, where it's been drilled or machined wrong. And I'm sure the fuel is then going up the side or behind the rod there, straight into the engine and messing with the fuel ratio at lower revs. When the slider then gets opened up and you use it, it works well. So that's what I'm going to put it down to. I don't know what else you can do about that. That's why these are £65 or £70, whatever they are. The Genuine Carbs. I do not promote the fake carburetors, and I will not post links and stuff for them. They're cheap, and do they work? Yes, kind of. The Genuine Carbs are expensive because they work, and Lectron have done the work basically to make sure that when you buy them, the average person or below average person can buy them, bolt them on, and not have to adjust them. Which, to do that, it's incredibly hard to do that for a product, for any product, let alone one which is so critical in an engine, the fuel mixture. That, to be fair to them, is why they can charge 4, 5, 6, 700 quid for these carburetors, maybe more. I don't know how many dollars that is. Thousands, $1,000, and their expertise. If you try and message AliExpress man saying, how do I tune these carburetors, you aren't going to get an answer from him. If you buy a Genuine Carb and you email Lectron, you will, probably. I've never tried. I didn't need to. It's as simple as that. And little things like it works. Float bowl gaskets don't swell. These are, for the money, these are good, but they don't work properly. Or this one doesn't, at least. I want to put my Genuine Carb on a new project, which will be coming up soon. I've had it for many, many years. Very cool. A death machine, if you will. I'm going to run the Husqvarna with a slightly higher idle adjustment, which is done off the throttle cables, and just see how it works. I think it will probably mess with the lower fueling a little bit, but these Lectrons do tend to like a slightly higher idle anyway. Cool! Just going to bolt a few things back onto it and also show you a fork seal trick if you haven't seen these before. I've tried a lot of combinations of different things, different parts, different carburetors. I've tried adjusting the timing as well. Here on this particular bike I have a HPI adjustable timing kit with a smaller flywheel on here. I thought this could also be the reason why it wasn't idling, because the smaller flywheel didn't have enough inertia to keep the high compression engine pumping over. When I put the Genuine carburetor back on, all problems were solved. So I know, again, it isn't a timing issue. So we're going to bolt the stator cover back on, and this is just to keep my feet away from here, because it does get quite close. I cut this gasket out about 3 years ago out of a bit of gasket paper, and it's done pretty fuck.
Did it just break?
Yeah, I think so. This bike, by the way, is I was going to do a video on it, but this is partly the video on it anyway. It's a 2001 Husqvarna WR 360, which is a 360cc two-stroke. In fact, this may even be a 2002. I can't remember. Yes, it is. So this is the last year they were made. Bit of a funny beast. Yeah, very high compression. I've rebuilt the cylinder, put a new piston, relined the cylinder, electrics kit. I put new reeds in there, as you can see in the other part of the video. What else have I done? Oh yeah, carburetor. Repacked the exhaust. Basically done loads of work on it. But I don't really use it anymore. So I thought this is a bike to test the fake carburetor, clone carburetor on, which is what we're now doing. So that's that bolted on. I'm going to show you now fork seal trick, because these fork seals, as maybe you can see here, are some of the worst leaking fork seals I've ever seen in my life. Hey, look, where are you? Oh, there we go. And that was just from scraping on the bottom there. So let alone up there. Anyway, I've done it to this side already. Now, if you've done fork seals before, or you have to pay someone else to do them, you'll know it's not a particularly cheap or easy job. Well, I don't know. It's just an annoying job, that's for sure, because you've got to take a lot of bits off. These little things, these little tools, are about £5, so it's well worth giving it a try before you do your fork seals. Especially on motocross bikes, because as I found out on these, they are filthy. Boom, now you can see the amount of oil which is sprayed out over my brake disc, caliper and pads. It's not the ideal situation, so we'll clean that up. I like to give it one of these before. Oh, wrap it around. We then have to take the wiper seal from the fork carefully, try not to damage the fork in any way. Get all up in there and flush out some of that horribleness. Once we give that a clean, you then get your little hook tool, and the idea is we've got to push it up past the lip of the seal, and then you rotate it. This is why it's important to have the fork guard off and as much space as you can. You then rotate it around the seal, as I'll demonstrate in a second, and then pull it out, and you'll see that the tool, the hook of the tool, is then covered in crap like that. So that's then hopefully pulling it out of the seal. Now, you'll also see here that as you're doing this, you will get a bit of oil come out. I tend to wrap a bit of rag around the bottom there, so if it does flood out, it doesn't go everywhere. But as mine is covered anyway, I'll leave it. And we just pull that round. And then we'll pull it out there. There we go. Crap. When the crap is sitting between the lip of the seal and your stanchion, the oil is then going to flow all around the bits of crap, which is why it's important to get them out. Hopefully, that's why the seal is leaking, as opposed to it's sort of worn or damaged. So this trick might help you save a seal which doesn't need replacing. Save a seal. SAS. I saw a baby seal last year or year before.
Did you?
Yeah, on the beach. Yeah, Yeah, tiny thing it was. As we will, then we got worried that it weren't actually going to find its way back home to its family, which is quite sad. I tend to do this maybe 3 or 4 times, and then we're done. And then we can then leave this or ride it and see if there's any more drips of oil coming down. We can soon tell, because if it doesn't leak down the fork leg anymore onto my brake caliper, disc and pads, then bonus. One of them. Oh, right, cool, they look pretty clean actually. I'll give this wiper seal here, this dust seal, a bit of a dusting. Should I put that in there as well? Probably. That's what tie wraps are invented for. Throughout the summer, you will see the progress of my sunflowers grow in different videos. So look forward to that. That could be the highlight of all this. These bikes have also got one of the noisiest clutch baskets you'll probably ever hear on a motorbike. And it sounds terrible. On every video I hear of these, they all sound exactly the same. And when you pull the clutch in, it stops. So yeah, it's just a feature of these bikes. To get the bike to idle, I'm likely going to do it on the cable adjustment screw here. Essentially, I'm just holding the throttle on, which isn't the way to do it, but it's the way I have to do it here. So that's how you'll see me get it to idle. I'm gonna stick my boot on, stick my Louis boot on. That's a brand, isn't it? They both actually start first or second kick, so it'll be interesting now I've said that to see if they do start up first or second kick. Louis boot on, break your ankles or something. So there's that. To get to the choke on these is on the wrong side, but we can go through the exhaust here for that. So the engine is obviously cold. Ooh. This has also got, I'll show them this actually. I fitted a decompressor lever to this because it was really hard to kick over. There's that, it goes to a little valve, which is in the head. This has also got an aftermarket head on there, which came with the bike, which had the thread machined into it to put a decompressor in there. What it is handy for is when you first get on the bike, I pull it in just to give it a few kicks, get things flowing. I'll then turn it off and do what I call the 450 kick procedure for this, because the compression is a lot. You'll know if you've started big bikes before, but you have to do that with it. Anyway, there's that. Choke's on, that's off. Kill switch, hasn't got a key. Oh, nothing there. I remember actually, the last time I ran this bike, I put a different carb on there, so it's very, very possible the spark plug is fouled, which I forgot about until now. If it doesn't start up, that'll probably be why. Right, choke off. We've got it to idle on the adjuster screw here, because this idle down here does fuck all. Ping, ping, ping. Sorry, Mum. Ping, 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 ping. I'm not picturing big things from the real low end, because that is my idle circuit, which I'm kind of skipping, if you like, because of the position of my needle and slide. So the bottom end stuff, it feels okay. I haven't really given it any gas though yet, so, but I will. I will give it the big one. To top this all off, maybe this is a bad carburetor that I got. Maybe I should have bought it from Chongling as opposed to Ling Chong. Who knows what them factories are like. This is the clone Lectron carburetor fitted to this bike. And we're going to give it some beans to see how it performs. Wicked. Join us for this transition. If you don't do the 4-stroke Tech 450 technique kick start thing with this is how it goes. Not bad, but hard work. Anyway, we've got the bike idling here. The fueling may not be spot on the lower end, but this is just give you a general idea that the fake carburetors do actually work
They are tunable, so... Ow! Power, no problem. It's one of the benefits of this bike. One of the benefits of this bike is that you've got unlimited power. Unlimited power! That's one way to wake you up. So I did nearly crash there. As I was saying as I was coming down the hill, this bike has got so much power that whatever gear you're in, you can just pull away. Am I out of breath? Yes. This bike does really, you got to be careful on the back brake, backing it in, because it locks up. My goodness, it's hard to, you can't just bump start it. Anyway, that was nearly crash number 1. Apologies if you can hear me breathing, but I'm out of breath. Look at what I'm doing, man. Because I'm tired, I'm out of breath. I'm out of breath. Oh, okay, and that hasn't happened. This is when I really, really, really hate this motorcycle. When this is running, as you can see, when it starts first kick, what a joy. But when you get to these points, when you're trying to kick it over, and you can't, and you're out of breath like this, I'm tempted to fucking push it down to that dike and leave it. We'll give it a few more kicks and see what happens. I expect nothing will happen. Apart from me being more out of breath than I already am. I just can't. Come on! Oh, you I fucking hate this bike. Even the cow's laughing at me. Sound like it had no fuel then. It has got fuel. It's raining. I'm really out of breath. I can't kick it. And that pretty much sums it up. The bike was stalling at idle basically because of the issue that we're having. Now I dare say you could tune around that. I haven't tuned the fake carburetor since I put it back together. I just set it at base height and left it there. They are exactly the type of issues you're going to run into using the fake carburetors. The first quarter of the throttle is a bit funny. Like I said, maybe you could tune around that. But you can see that when the bike is on tap, it runs well and the power is good. There's no problem with the power delivery of the carburetors. It's just the idle to low is funny. So make what you want from this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to watch the previous video on the comparisons of the two carburetors, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.